Good morning and welcome to the ENTEQ Technologies PLC final results investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and they can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question received during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll, and I would now like to hand you over to CEO Andrew Law. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Alex. So what we're going to go through today is we're going to go and give an update on our annual results. And this is going to be a brief. We're going to try and keep it to 15 to 20 minutes and then give time for questions. And we are going to give mainly add some color, add some flavor, add some pictures and videos to the update. So as a refresher, ENTEQ is an energy technology company, and we cover the energy transition as well as the legacy sectors for drilling. And our main technology is a novel method of steering whilst drilling, and it's from an original Shell Technologies discovery. And this system is the system of steering whilst drilling. It's called a rotary steerable, is a simpler, more efficient system, which gives it the potential to disrupt the existing sector in the similar way that sort of Dyson transformed the vacuum industry. It's what we can do to the rotary steerable industry. So I have the, sorry. Okay, so this is, okay, go on to the next slide. So I'll just, like I say, sorry, I've got a bit of a lag. Okay, so I'm assuming that most of you have, or many of you have seen us before. So I'm Andrew Law, the CEO. I'm delighted to be here with Amir Absood. So Amir has recently joined us. He has a great deal of AIM sector experience, a great deal of energy services experience, which is where I've known him from before. And he has a strong entrepreneurial focus, really focused on supporting small technology businesses. So since coming on board to ENTEQ, Amir has and his team have worked diligently and on all aspects of the finance function. Recently, getting a smooth management of the audit through to annual results, which is no mean feat in today's environment. And what that's done is that's provided a great deal of stability to the finance function and a great deal of support to the business. So I'm getting sort of Emirates business class level of support, which is actually fantastic for the business. So Amir, if you'd like to say a couple of words.
Thanks, Andrew. Since 1999, I was working with and specializing in SMEs, including AIM-listed companies. And since 2007, I worked in the energy service sector in the UK and internationally. So I'm excited to be working with ENTEQ and their innovative technology. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Amir. All right, so we are. So what I've got here, and the basis of this presentation is largely pictures and videos with some commentary from the annual report. So just to give some real flavour of what's been going on. So recently, oh, excuse me, sorry, Alex, can you go back to the slide? Thank you. All right. So recently, this is the pictures you see here are in Queensland, Australia. So fortunately, I was on holiday, vacation 3 weeks ago in Queensland, and because I'm interested, because I'm interested and was needed, I went up to the operations location in outback Queensland, which was absolutely wonderful experience. So it's a huge mining operation. And this is where our customer and our technology enables this it's a real energy transition story in that we are drilling lots of multilateral or deviated holes to extract the methane safely prior to mining. So it's a very engaged customer, very energetic, engaged workforce. So it's absolutely it's a very professional operation. The picture you see on the right is the drilling rig, and that's the rig in outback Queensland. And at the bottom of the picture, where you can see a sort of a metal or a sort of chrome metal pipe. That is our Sabre tool going in the hole in the field test environment, in the field test operations on live customer operations. So if you are able to share the video, Alex, that would be great. So this is a short video, but it's this is actually me inspecting the tool after it's been in the hole. And so, okay, sorry, it's fine if you can stop the video there. So that was me in going and downloading the video and downloading the tool memory data after it's been in hole for 6 days of operation. So we've been putting the tool through its paces to a great extent. We've got over 600 hours of real live operating in a live operating environment. So the tool's been getting a really strong shakedown. I'll go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the work environment that we're in. So it's a true remote operation. What we see here. So I'll share a couple of videos in a minute, but what we see here is the tool being inspected prior to the operation. Alex, if you can play the video, but I think if you can play the short video that was in the presentation, that would be good. Not the whole thing. So if you go ahead. Oops. Hello. Okay. Sorry, with this okay, waiting for the video to play, but you're seeing it. Okay, I'm not seeing it. So okay, sorry. Okay, so for some reason it's not appearing on my screen, but so what we can see here is the tool being inspected and or tool testing the operation prior to it running. So the tool that we see here is the Sabre tool. This is where the electronics and essentially the brains of the tool are. Okay, so sorry about that. We're getting okay. Okay. So next slide this is an update since we've presented to last on Investor Meet. So in July 2023, we had a successful proof of concept in Catoosa, Oklahoma, and that's where we ran the tool in a live test environment on a real rig in the United States, and then we had some we implemented our improvements following that run where it was successful, and then in February this year we ran the tool again at the same environment in Catoosa, and what we'll show in a second on the next video is the tool actually performing on a pre-job inspection before it goes into the well. So that brings it up to 4 separate phases of testing between ourselves and Shell, where the tool has operated and steered downhole in a drilling environment. So now if you could play the video, that would be great. Actually, Amir, I might want it to see. Oh, it's playing on yours, but not on mine. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, right. So what you can see here is the bit is rotating. So that teal colored device is the bit. And what we can see is the tools are doing exactly what we want it to do, which is the flow, or the flow is diverting to the left. And when the video stops, at the end, you'll see that essentially 50% of the flow is gone to the left-hand side of the tool. So this is the basis of the tool, in that in this case, we're checking that the valve is correctly diverting the flow through the bit before we run in hole. And if you could just pause on that, Alex, you can just see that's where you've got the force of the flow on the left, and then you've got a blocked off flow on the right. Thank you. So this is Derek. He's not on his holidays, but this is one of our colleagues, Derek. He is, in this case, he's going en route to Queensland, and we've had essentially continuous presence of field and operations people in Queensland since for the last 3 months. And the important point here is Derek is carrying the Sabre tool with him on standard airline hold luggage. So why is that important? Well, the reason it's important is if you see the environment, the operating environment that we're working in, sort of dirt floors and remote locations, being able to transport the tool such as this in and out is absolutely valuable. And this has, this is something that no other rotary steerable can do to the same extent as this. So it's a huge advantage, and it means that we can ship equipment in and out to remote operating locations very efficiently. Okay. So an update. So the pictures you see here are in our Houston facility. Picture on the left is our fleet build. So what we do here is you can see in this case it's four tools are being what we call kitted out. And so the components are there in order, waiting to be assembled. So fleet in our terms, the build is largely assembly of either off-the-shelf components and or bespoke components that we order in from vendors generally now in the Houston area, which is quite efficient. We've got the operations team in the middle there, standing next to the tool, and then there's a short video of the control system. So if you would just go to that video, Alex, that'd be great. So, okay. So what we see here is this is the control system essentially doing exactly what it should do, and it's the arrow, which is essentially our valve, is doing exactly as we want it to, which is holding steady. The important thing here is that we're actually playing back Australia data, so live recorded data into the tool to make sure that it can cope with erratic rotation, which is what you get when you're drilling. So the team in Houston have done a fantastic job in really refining that control system, which really improving the performance of the tool quite considerably. So in terms of so the picture on the right is in the background, we see the four. In this case, it's four. We've got more tools being built, but this is the four tools being kitted out and being built. In the midground, what we see is on the left, we see that teal. That's the bit. So that's the drill bit. And then on the right, along from that is essentially it's the protective housing. It's called the collar. And that's what the tool goes into. And then in the foreground, on the blue tool stands, what we see, that's the Sabre. So and when customers have been in to see us in our Houston facility, they remark upon it's a sort of wow moment when they say, really, is that how simple the tool is? And it really is incredibly simple compared to any other rotary steerable on the market. So in additional updates, we've applied for and been granted additional IP in the UK. We've got it in process for other regions, and so in the kind of key normal regions where one would expect us to be operating. We've had a third-party IP valuation completed, and that gives us confidence in that we're in the right direction. So in terms of that IP valuation, it's multiples of our market cap, multiples of our R&D spend, as you would expect. So essentially, it gives us the board confidence in that it gives us confidence in our opinion that we are undervalued. And then in terms of commercialization, we have been actively, in the meantime, like I said, we've got customers coming into our facility in Houston. So we've been engaging with regional partners, so that we can have essentially regional customer distribution partnership agreements, and that's our route to market. Is working with strong regional players, regional service companies who have the breadth to be able to deploy our technology into those key regions. So now I'll hand over to Amir for financials.
Thanks, Andrew. So in the year just ended 31 March 2024, we made the strategic sale of the XXT IP, which was our MWD, which is measurement whilst drilling business. This is where the revenue in the comparative period was generated under the discontinued column. So XXT was sold for $3.1 million, and we realized a gain of $1 million from that sale. Now, post year end, we received the final cash tranche from the sale. So it's all been fully paid off now. Now, the reason for the sale of XXT was so that we can focus our energies on Sabre. So we continue to invest in the development of Sabre in the prior year to the tune of $1.8 million, which has gone largely into refining and testing the tools. We got the bulk of the R&D behind us now, and at the back of last year, we started the Sabre fleet build and spent $0.4 million there, as you can see from the table. So post year end, we have completed the build of a set of Sabre tools that we're now in the process of commercializing. So we end the year pretty strong with a closing cash position of $3 million. EBITDA was negative $3.2 million for the year just passed. And since I came on board, I worked with Andrew and the management team to streamline the business and the costs. And our cash burn now is below $200,000 a month, which puts us in a strong position to take the business forward. That's the financials in summary. Over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Amir. Okay, in terms of outlook, the market, the macro market is fundamentally strong. In terms of directional drilling is 11.8 billion per annum globally, and the subset which we operate in, which is rotary steerable, is 3.6 billion per annum globally. So we are operating, and our technology has potential to operate in 3.6 billion market, and more importantly, this 3.6 billion market is heavily dominated toward 2 or 3 companies who essentially own that market at the moment. So ENTEQ, through Sabre, can offer a differentiated, cost-competitive solution into that sector, which needs competition. And particularly the regional players, they need competition to be able to compete. So a receptive market. Next is full commercialization of Sabre. We can offer that, so say, to these regional players who are either our legacy MWD customers, who we know, or larger service companies. So there's 2 main routes to market for Sabre, supporting the regional companies as well as supporting the multinationals. And in terms of our route to market is the regional partnership that I mentioned before, in terms of key regional partnerships, and we're making good progress towards progressing those regional partnership agreements. So one thing I should mention is we're moving into after our 600 hours of testing with this customer in Australia, we're now imminently moving into the operational phase, where we'll be doing, again, steering whilst drilling with that customer prior to moving into the commercial phase with them. And like I say, we've proven the technology before on the video I showed you. So this is a case of proving the technology again, which we've already proven with that customer. But we've got really good run history in that environment. So in summary, ENTEQ is we're an energy transition company supporting both the, energy technology company supporting energy transition as well as the legacy. Our focus is drilling. The technology is differentiated. It's a novel method of steering whilst drilling. The market is strong. It's off the back of this Shell original discovery, and we have we're in continuous discussions with Shell. And we have this, what we're excited about is the potential to disrupt the market in the same way that Dyson has transformed the vacuum market. In our 3.6 billion world, that's the market that we want to transform. Thank you. So I thank you, Amir. So now it's time for Q&A.
Andrew,
we will.
Andrew, that's great. And Amir, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. While the company take a few moments to review those questions submitted today, I would like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Amir, Andrew, as you can see, we have received a number of pre-submitted and live questions throughout today's presentation. And if I may now hand back to you and kindly ask you to read out the questions where appropriate to do so, and I'll pick up from you both at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So while I'm talking, just I will have the slide on the background is one of our marketing slides, so it lists some of the key benefits of the tool. So that will be on in the background if you can see that. So I'm going to go through some of the questions from the very top. Thank you. Right. So I will go through these questions. So the question of who's funding the fleet build, prepayments by customers, ? So yeah, so the way this works is we've built a fleet, which is an initial commercial fleet that's been built and being built. And it's a small fleet that is ready to deploy to customers around the world. So the intent is that we build up to a fleet where we can have 2 or 3 concurrent operations with different customers. And in terms of funding the fleet build, you are correct in your statement that it is prepayments by customers. Is the regional distributor agreements are designed so that they will fund and fuel the growth of the Sabre fleet. Correct. So another question on we are still pre-commercialization. We're on the cusp of commercialization. So like I say, we've proven the technology in a real drilling environment, and now we're working with an engaged customer to move on to that next commercialization phase. So that is correct. We are technically still pre-commercialization, but it is very close now, and very exciting times for us. Like I say, we're not concerned. We're confident in the technical, confident in the technical performance of the tool because we've proven it before. Sorry, the thing came up right. So, okay. So there's a question on the cash. Would you like to answer that, Mir, or do you want anything else you covered, or do you want me to answer that one?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we are monitoring our cash very closely, my team and I, and management. And as Andrew said, we're looking at opportunities with distributors and ways of generating revenue, etc. So that's something we're monitoring very, very, very closely.
And I would add that Amir and his team have added a great deal of essentially discipline and cash efficiency. So not only have we reduced the monthly spend, we've also essentially increased the cash efficiency that we've got. It is something, like Amir says, we actively monitor as a board. Okay, so the question here on the customer contract that's previously announced. So yes, we have a purchase order from that customer. Like I say, we are very strongly engaged with that customer, and that's the customer we've been talking about. So we have a very strong relationship. We have people on the ground at the moment. So we've got we've got 2 people in Australia at the moment currently working on moving on to the commercial phase. So next question: when do you expect to hear the outcome of your Australian trials? In the coming weeks. So very excited there. I can't. It's an operational environment, so I can't give an accurate date because that's but it's in the coming weeks is what's planned and what's scheduled. Okay. Can we get someone from a client to talk about your product and how it helps them? Yes, absolutely. What we'll do is it's in the customer's interest as well to have to essentially co-market this product. So we when we move into that commercialization phase, that I think the discussions we've had with them, I think they will be very much on board with that. And yes, we should be able to. I think they'll be very vocal as well. Okay, sorry, I'm just making sure I get these next questions. Okay, if a client wants to buy ENTEQ, what is the point in terms of market cap where you start listening? So I mentioned that IP valuation. Actually, the main reason we got the IP valuation done was so that we could actually put a number and put numbers on different regions for the regional distribution partnerships, and so that was the primary reason. However, there's a nice byproduct in that gives us a good reference point, and like I say, that's multiples of market cap, multiples of the R&D spend. So I think as a board, we are absolutely confident in our path of commercializing the tool and using the strength of these distribution partners. So it's not something that we are actively doing, obviously, but we are confident in our path in terms of commercializing this tool. The market's strong, the technology is good, and the regional the customer appetite we feel is strong as well. Another question: can we somehow help with the sales campaign? I know some all execs, so we could open doors possibly. Absolutely. So that would be much appreciated. Any help we can get will be welcome. And I think in terms of the all execs, that's an important point in terms of our route to market is through these regional distribution agreements. However, when you start introducing technologies into the customers, it's the all execs who are the ones who want and need to engage with those new technologies. So it's essentially we have 2 customer groups. One is the service company, and the other one is the end user, who's the oil companies or geothermal companies. Can the company provide an update on the commercial rollout schedule of the Sabre tool? Yeah, so essentially use our pilot fleet, work with the regional customers, and then use the regional customers' strength to deploy that into those regions. And we've got a good handle on the tool build time now. So it's like I say, it's an assembly. There are some lead times, but we've got a much better handle on that kind of process of manufacturing. Which leads on next question, which is: to what extent is the company dependent on suppliers and partners for manufacturing? One of the real strengths of moving to Houston has been a wider supplier base, access to really strong engineering resource, which has been absolutely wonderful. And what that means is we have then been able to have plans for reducing our dependence on sole suppliers. So good supply chain base in Houston. what are ENTEQ's plans for scaling the business, and what does the company see as the main challenge in terms of scaling? Well, it's I think there's twofold. Is one, in terms of scaling. The plans are to scale up to an absolutely meaningful amount. So when you look at that 3.6 billion market, we want to get a decent share of that, and we think that's absolutely possible. And so what's needed there is two things. One is customers, and one is tools, fleet. So capital constraints is if we have any unlocking of capital that can go into building the fleet and then going to to pushing that into the market. And then in customers, like I said, that's why we were engaging with large to medium size customers, is because they have the breadth so that they can deploy that into multiple countries. How's the multi-well testing in Australia going so far? Is the potential customer happy with Saber's performance? Yeah. So like I may have said before, I mean, this customer is based in Australia. They've seen the tool from the Shell days, so they're aware of the tool from the Shell days. So yeah, they have a need for it. They're very engaged, very supportive. So yes, they are. They're definitely on the side and happy. And we've been giving them obviously information. We've been sharing all the operation results as we move on. So I understand from a recent edition of the Drilling Contractor magazine that ENTEQ is careful in selecting the right customers for testing the Saber tool. Does that indicate that several customers already showed tangible commercial interest in the tool? So yeah, I mean, so the independent service companies around the world need access to a rotary steerable, and that's where having access to, there aren't many rotary steerables on the market that are not dominated by these top 2 to 3 service companies. So there is a healthy demand for rotary steerables within the industry, and yes, we've had customers visit our in-depth visits to our facility in Houston. We've had customers visit our testing when we've done it. So there is strong customer demand. There's here one for note 11. I give this to you, Amir. Actually, we've already answered it. It's a question on the independent valuation assessment for impairment purposes. What is the company's view on the market valuation? Well, as a board, obviously, we believe that the company is undervalued. The independent valuation report supports that. Is that fair enough?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Considering that Saber tool was initially discovered by Shell and the royalties are due once the tool is commercial, has Shell showed interest in using the Saber tool itself as well? Yes. So I've been in discussions. We are in routine discussions. So we have a regular update with Shell. So I spoke to them probably 4 weeks ago, and yeah, so they are very much on board. Spoke to their technology team, and so they are, they're certainly engaged and interested. Okay, so has the company considered to raise additional cash, for example, via share offering or asset financing? So I think Amir's mentioned the point about we're always, as the board, we're routinely looking at, monitoring our cash position and looking at all options. I think the detailed point on asset financing, I think that can come later, but it's asset financing tends to be done once you are fully commercially, fully down the commercial route. So I think that's probably too soon. Hence why our deliberate plan of engaging with regional partners to support that. Okay, there's another question on cash. Do you want to cover that one, Amir, or have you already covered that one? To Saber, September 2025.
Yeah, understand that based on cash flow projections, the company expects to have sufficient cash to fund the testing, the completion of initial Sabre tools up to September 2025. Will be actually, done by testing way before then, and not up to September 2025. That's the going concern period for the accounts. Does this cash flow projection already include cash flows from the Sabre tools? Yes, some revenue, prudent amount of revenue, let's say. What are the company's expectations in terms of sufficient cash for the period up to September 2025? Well, we're working very hard on the commercialization, monitoring cash very closely. We do expect to be in a strong position.
Okay, thank you. There's a question here. Please describe how Sabre's commercialization status and level of interest differ by end use. So hydrocarbons, geothermal, CCS, which is carbon capture and storage, and coal bed methane. So, I mean, they're all, in this case, it's all in the drilling application. There's some subtle differences. The geothermal main difference is that generally needs to be higher temperature, which we can do. So hence why we are sort of geothermal ready. We're high temperature ready. In terms of coal bed methane, essentially coal bed methane, one of the key things there is the project that we're working on, which is actually methane extraction. That is it's multi-year, multi-well projects. So what is needed is a cost-efficient, simple tool that can do the job. So that's where essentially the efficiency, the cost efficiency comes in. In terms of hydrocarbons, so generally in the oil and gas, it depends on the market, but generally it's a similar thing. Anything we can do to introduce cost efficiency is a positive. So question, how does the level of interest and engagement differ between directional drilling contractors and their E&P clients? So I would say there's a point there which is between different directional drilling contractors. It depends on the region that they're in. So there's subtle differences between, let's say, the Middle East and the US, where, in terms of appetite for new technology, but equally choosing the right company, there are strong appetites for new technologies. Just got to choose the right company. What tends to happen is that in the ex-US, so everywhere with the international sector, it tends to be that people just need a rotary steerable. There's much less independent availability of rotary steerable tools. So just being present is all, not quite, but all that's needed. Whereas in the US, being cost efficient is needed broadly. I mean, there's a lot of detail to it, but broadly that's how it is. Right. Okay, right. We'll just make sure I'm okay. So I'm just trying to go through. Sorry, just save my commercial. So, how does Sabre's value proposition differ towards drilling contractors and E&P operators? So a good point, actually. Good question. So drilling contractors, what they need to do in certain parts of the world, and they all, they need to make a margin. They need to make profit. So what we've designed the tool, and this is where being very cost efficient, both in terms of upfront capital cost as well as ongoing cost, because of the simplicity of the system. What that means is that it's designed as being a low cost to operate system. And what that gives is value into the market that can enable drilling contractors to operate with increased profitability over what they can do at the moment, because they're kind of bound by what is available. And then it offers, in addition, the opportunity to pass some of that value on to the end user. So that's one of the differentiated, or one of the sort of value points along the chain. So I've got a question here. Total RSS market at 3.6 billion. Can you elaborate on the RSS market that doesn't require high-end LWD? Okay, it's a very technical question. Essentially, we can operate in. So one of the customers that we are potential customers we're dealing with is using high-end LWD potentially with Sabre. So we can operate in the we're generally positioning ourselves for onshore initially, but we can operate in the with the high-end technology. So we've designed an interface that will enable us to communicate with those tools, as well as being in essentially the simple sector. So we can cover both parts of that market. There's a question here about the commercial model for regional distributors. What and do we charge a license fee on top? Obviously, those are in discussion and in negotiation at the moment. But it depends on the region. Some regions are more prefer to purchase equipment. Some regions prefer to rent a fleet of equipment or lease and use that as a service. So it varies depending on the country and the region. There's a question here on strategy for drill bits. Would custom bits be required, and have proactive steps been taken to engage the industry trusted bit vendors? Yes, we've engaged with bit vendors, and there is a small internal modification that's required to the drill bit. Essentially, we can operate with anybody's drill bit, and providing there's that internal modification. And we've done it with 2 of the major independent bit providers, and we've also spoken to other bit providers. The modification is relatively simple, so it's good point. When commercial, what is the payback period on the tools you build? I won't go into specifics at the moment, but pretty good. Because it depends on rental or lease, or sale. Sorry, but there's a good model that is already established in the industry, and the payback, the returns are attractive and still offer us enough an attractive business, plus the ability to provide value to our end customers. So yeah. If you had access to further cash, would you be able to accelerate the growth of the business? Yes, absolutely. So essentially, now that the technology is proven in terms of building up a fleet, that's the next phase. Really, is scaling up that fleet. So yeah, absolutely. And that's, I wouldn't say limitless, but it's there's a meaningful market share in that 3.6 billion market is that's a decent. We can establish a very strong, decent business out of that. Okay. Right. We've got. I've got a lot of companies. A lot of questions still coming through. I'll try and make sure I'm not repeating myself too much. Is there an opportunity to license Sabre for upfront payments as a part of accelerating take up? Yes, that's another option, and that is again, a reason why we got that independent valuation done, because that actually covers the way it's a very solid process in terms of what that company uses. So they actually use what's called a relief from royalty to come up with that value. So that's their basis of starting with what, or their initial basis of coming up with the valuation. So yeah, it is something we would look at, and that would tend to move towards some of the larger companies. But yes, that is something. What are the Sabre Tools USPs compared to the big three companies that offer rotary drilling? Are there major differences? So the USP for Sabre is it is simple, and that simplicity means that we can offer a cost reduction for total life of ownership. So the key thing, and I didn't go through it here because I didn't want to get too dragged down into the technical, but the way Sabre steers is remarkably simpler than any other rotary steerable tool steers. They always use a mechanical push, and what that means is you've got a lot of wear components, whereas the Sabre is very similar. So all other rotary steerables are on the market tend to use a mechanical system that has a high degree of wear and tear, and also has a greater capital upfront cost. So yeah, the idea is simpler, cheaper to operate system that we can introduce into the market. And obviously with that simplicity, potentially comes reliability. How aware are the incumbent providers of ENTEQ and Sabre? So the incumbents, I mean, we're in discussions with, we discuss within the market, so people are aware of us. We talk to a lot. So some of the potential ultimate customers are also competitors. So some, not all, are aware of us. Okay, I think I've covered most. There's a question here on the unit cost, which is commercially sensitive. So suffice to say, it's more cost effective than incumbent systems. The key point is, in terms of repair and maintenance, ongoing costs, is that's where we can offer a real significant saving. And simple things like that picture of Derek transporting the tool down to location, really, real differentiated advantage over what's available on the market at the moment. I think that's probably, I think that's coming through as most of them.
That's great,
okay,
Andrew. Amir, I believe you have addressed most of those questions
thank you.
in the Q&A tab. And of course, if there are any questions that come through, you will be able to review them after the webinar. Before we direct investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to the company, Andrew, could I just please ask you for a few closing comments?
Yeah, no, thank you for the variety of questions. It's been a pleasure to present to you. We as a board are very excited about moving on to this next phase, and we're very confident obviously in the technology. We're confident in the market, so we are very much energized in making this work. So thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Perfect. Andrew, Amir, thank you once again for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you will now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the board can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, and I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of ENTEQ Technologies PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good afternoon to you all.